Hello again, this is Aiden back again with another instructional video on Linux. Today we are going to cover some Linux informational commands. The scenario in this particular lesson is our boss has a list of machines that are on the network. We have been tasked to remotely connect to an IP address of 10.02.22 via SSH. The credentials have been provided for us and we are to retrieve the following information, which will be made clear in just a second. So let's just go ahead and just jump right into it. Okay, let's just go ahead, just jump right into it. To the left, you'll see the questions that we are supposed to answer. And of course, in the lion's share of the screen, we are going to see our Kali Linux box. Now, we are supposed to remotely connect to this machine. So let's just go ahead, open up a terminal, right so. And let's go ahead, save your eyes and press Control-Shift+++. And then there we go. We have our default credentials there for Kali. But let's go ahead and do SSH NGT user at 10.02.22, which is the machine that we are supposed to connect to. Now we're going to provide our password, and I believe that this should be good. All right, so now we are connected remotely to this machine that's on the network. And first and foremost, we got to now answer some questions in terms of the questionnaire that we were given to by our boss. Now, who am I logged in as? Well, this is actually rather easy because you can see over here at your terminal that you are logged in as NGT user and the host name is right here. Now, this is something that is new. If your computer or if you're running a terminal that does support this kind of terminal prompt, you'll basically always know this at the top of your brain as long as it's configured to do so. But to be honest with you guys, a good deal of systems out there won't give you all this information that's being highlighted. Sometimes you'll just be given this $ as your prompt, and you will need to figure out who you are. Now, the quick way of how to do this is just type in, who am I? Now in here, there you go. Who am I will return NGT users. Now you can know for sure that you are essentially this user because this is going to return who the user you are logged into as. All right. What is my IP address? Of course, most of you guys already know this, but the Linux command to figure out your IP address is just good old-fashioned ifconfig or ipconfig, and ooh, that is really messy. So what I'm going to do is I am going to make this a little bit larger right there, and we do see that there are quite a few IP addresses. Actually, you know what? Let's clear that up. Let's just do ifconfig once again. There you go. Now the formatting is a little bit better. Now we do see that on this interface, ENP0S3, we have an IP address of 10.0.22. And in this one, ENP0S8, we have 192.168.0.245. And of course, we do have the loopback address attached here. So we actually have several IP addresses, but the ifconfig command will tell us what they are. Now, our boss also wants to know what is the kernel version that is running on this computer. Because as of right now, we don't actually know what version of Linux, or actually even if this is Linux at all, running on this computer. Well, essentially we can just type in the uname command, and this will tell us that this is Linux. Well, it tells us it's Linux, but it doesn't really tell us more information. We need kernel information. So if we just type in uname -- help, we can see that we can actually grab more granular information just from the uname command. In this case, we want to see, let's see the kernel name, kernel release, or kernel version. So let's go ahead and try this. Uname -- let's go A. So Linux, basically the host name is OS boxes. Actually, that answers us a couple more things here. And this is the kernel version over here, 5.150.58 generic, and looks like we do see the flavor of Linux that we are on is Ubuntu. So what is my kernel version? Well, my kernel version is 5.150-58 generic, running Ubuntu. So we got that answer down. So far so good, right? Now, how long has this computer been up? Or how long has this computer been running? Now, it's quite easy, actually. We just type in uptime, and basically right here, you can see exactly how long this computer has been running. In this case, it's only been running 14 minutes. Why? Well, because I turned it on 14 minutes ago. But it is not uncommon that you will see days, weeks, months on servers on a production network. It's not uncommon that you actually see machines that are up for years. So we know that this machine has been up for 14 minutes. Not at all impressive. And okay, let's see here. Who is logged in? All right, so let's go ahead and take in top. Who exactly is logged in? Let's clear up the terminal there and type in who. All right, we do see over here that NGT user is logged in. Not a big surprise because that is us. And this is our IP address that we are connected from. And I do see that OS Boxes is logged in as well, but logged in locally. So effectively speaking, the people that are logged in right now is OS Boxes and NGT user. NGT user is, of course, me. And let's go ahead and get a list of all the users on this particular machine. Now, if you guys remember from your lessons, if you go to etc., cd etc., can't get that right, cd etc., there is a file in here, ls passwd, called passwd. Okay, actually, let's do that, ls passwd LA, and looks like we basically have read access to it. Root has read access to it. Root has read access to it, and everybody else has read access to it. So I can just cat this. I can just cat passwd, and I can grab who the users are on this machine. In this case, NGT user is a user, and so is OS Boxes. Basically, any of the UIDs, which are right here, starting from 1000, is a user. Everything else actually belongs to a system process that is associated with a service. But for sure, these are the two, OS Boxes and NGT users are the two users for this box. All right, let's see here. How much resources is available or in use? Now, we basically can type in a couple of things here. Let's talk about RAM. Let's go ahead and clear this up. I can just say free H, and let's take a look at what we have. Now, in this case, free, let's type in free, tells us how much RAM is in use by the system, but this does not give us a very good or a very human readable format. That's why I usually type in free-H for human readable. In this case, we are using 521 megs of information, and so is the swap here. And it looks like we do have 74 megabytes of megs RAM available for use. Now, we can also talk about, okay, our boss wants to know what exactly is running, what processes are running. We can type in PS, and this will give us, well, the basic terminals that are running. However, if I want to get more information, I can just type in PS aux, right? However, let's type in more. Let's see what processes are running here. In this case, we do have these processes running right this very moment. Okay, and this is the list right here. We aren't really looking for anything specific. We were just given a list, or we were given a task of figuring out what processes were running, and well, voila, these processes are running right here. And it wouldn't surprise me if there were several hundred processes running on this system. Okay, looks like we have quite a few services running here. Not very many resources or processes being ran by any of the actual users. You can tell by up the top over here. User is root, and these are all system processes. Is there anything being ran by anybody else? Let's see, keep on going. Looks like OS Boxes is running a couple processes over here. And let's see if NGT user is running any. Oh. Space. And looks like NGT user is running quite a few, and those are, well, I mean, they're basically just regular old processes, nothing out of the norm that I can see. Okay, so we have been, so we do have these running processes gathered, and also if you guys need to put this out in the list, you can basically just do this too. Another easy way of doing this is just type in PSOX, and then we can redirect. We can redirect that output into home, NGT user, processes.txt, right there. And then we can go take a look over at our home directory. Process.txt, if I do an lsla, there we go. We do see that there is a file that was created just right now. And that file, if I cat it, processes.txt, contains all of the output that we would have seen on screen, but it just went to that file itself. Very, very handy when it comes to taking notes on the terminal. All right. Also, we want to know what ports are open. So we can do basically just type in netstat -a, and if you guys missed that, we can just see right here. Towards the very top, there are a couple of ports that are open. In this case, looks like we do have DNS open. We have SSH running. These are the ports that are listening in the listening state right here. And these are the services being offered to the network by this particular machine or this server. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at a couple of other ones. What USB and what PCI hardware is installed. And essentially, we can just type in ls USB, and let's take a look. We do have a couple of devices. We have a root hub, and then we also have a VirtualBox USB tablet in this case. Okay, that's good information to know. And let's see what PCI or peripheral component interconnect we have. ls PCI. And then voila, we do have all of this PCI components attached to this machine. Nothing too crazy out here, guys. Okay, it looks like we have an Ethernet controller. We have a bridge, USB controllers, and we have some multimedia audio devices. So basically everything that runs this computer that's virtualized. Now this is a virtual machine. This is not a surprise. This is a virtual machine. So all of these devices are virtualized. Now, one other thing to take a look at is also what networks do we have direct access to. Now let's go ahead and type in routes, and this will actually tell us what networks this machine has access to. And looks like right here we have 10.0.2.0, which is not surprising because that IP address came up during the ifconfig that we ran, and it looks like it is attached to the ENP0S3. And it looks like we have another network here, 192.168.0.0, and it was attached to ENP-S.8. And these ENP guys, essentially these are devices, the default names for Ethernet devices when it comes to some versions of Linux. Different versions of Linux have different conventions. This just happens to have that convention, as opposed to, if I F11 this real quick, guys, and I open up another terminal that's running on Kali. Okay, if I do an if route over here, you guys will see that I have a generic on this machine, the Kali machine, as opposed to NGT user. It looks like I have just 10.0.2.0 on Ethernet 0, and I have a Docker machine here. This just comes in default this way for Kali, and it comes default this way for Ubuntu. All right, so before I confuse you guys, let's go ahead and quit that right there. Okay, and that basically is it. All right, so for those of you guys that weren't taking notes, all of these commands are going to be provided for you by the link below. Let me go ahead and bring that link up, and let me go ahead and show you guys here. All right, well, here are the Linux informational commands that we just covered, guys. And these are going to be provided for you in the link below. Every command that we use is going to be on here, plus a couple additional commands, and we will cover those in another video in terms of file management. Now, again, these are really, really handy commands to be aware of and to be cognizant of whenever you're logging into a system. You should always run ifconfig and know what your IP address is. You should always run route and see what networks you are attached to when you are in a system, remote or otherwise, just to have that operational awareness of your environment around you. Well, hopefully you guys found this lesson very, very enlightening and very, very helpful. And tune in next week for another enlightening video on Linux or other security matters. And this has been Aiden from NGT Academy saying goodbye. I will see you guys next time.
Jacob Hess here. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you really enjoyed it. And I'd also like to remind you, if you're truly serious about your career in information technology, then be sure to check out our IT engineer training programs at www.zerotoengineer.com.